everyone, and welcome to the Doc Huddle, your gateway to an in-depth connection between sports medicine and the latest events in sports, fantasy, and betting. Today's show is brought to you by the Health and Wellness Depot. Unlock the power of well-being. So we're back. All right, I want to welcome in Dr. MJB, the legend, and Chris, a.k.a. Doug. We want to thank everyone for joining into today's show. Today's going to be we're covering the fantasy football rankings for wide receivers. So if everyone was just watching previously, today we did our show on JJ McCarthy's injury and our fantasy football kicker rankings. And now we move on to a very exciting portion where we're going to discuss the meat and potatoes of your fantasy football team, the wide receiver group. So, gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Pause, Mike. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about the potatoes. But I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. How are you?
I have no comeback, and I'm hanging in. Rough day, but at the clinic, but we're making it through. So I'm really looking forward to this. For those of our listeners who don't know, all three of us had the opportunity to play this position. So this one we hold dearest to our hearts. We analyze this one all throughout the year, whether it's the NFL Combine, the NFL Draft, during the season. So I am very excited. With that being said, let's get it started because I know there's going to be a lot of discrepancies and we're going to have different flavors for different likings of different things. Dr. MJB, the legend, take it away.
Just real quick, I didn't know, Chris, I didn't know you played receiver.
Oh yeah, I played receiver, corner, safety.
When was this?
Before I tore my ACL. So Jean Baptiste, the free agent for life, can take it easy over there.
No. I wasn't even trying.
He goes free agent for life.
I wasn't even trying to be funny. I just didn't. We never spoke about it, so I didn't know. But
no, I was like Tariq Hill, small and fast.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. See, I didn't know that. Okay. Learn something new every day. But yeah, I'll get right into it. This is my favorite segment out of all the positions that we're doing for fantasy football. So I'll go ahead and show you guys mine. Boom. This is my list here. I know the screening might be a little janky. So towards the bottom, I'll just kind of read those off so everyone's, in the clear of who I'm talking about. But yeah, at the top of my list, I have Tyreek Hill. I don't think, for me, there's not a question for his versatility, right? Because they use him both kind of like a running back and a wide receiver in essence. And he has speed to burn, man. So I think Tyreek Hill is cream of the crop for me. CeeDee Lamb, I think he is the best receiver, obviously, on the Cowboys, but I think there's a huge gap between number two. So I think Dak is going to continue to force feed him, and he's going to get his numbers. I think Burrow being back is going to elevate Jamar Chase's value. So I have him at 3. Normally, Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill would be interchangeable, 1A, 1B, or most may have Justin Jefferson number 1. But as of our last segment, JJ McCarthy out for the season. I think that has a huge impact on Minnesota Vikings and Justin Jefferson in terms of his impact.
Couldn't agree more.
Absolutely.
Sam, I just don't think Sam Darnold is going to get the job done. He's a former Panther. I've seen him play numerous times.
I got to interrupt you here. So you're picking, all right, you have the 7th pick in the draft, okay? Couple of running backs went, Tyreek, CeeDee, and Jamar gone. The next best wide receiver on your board, as per your rankings, is Justin Jefferson. You taking him at 7?
Yeah, only because you gotta, even though the change at quarterback happened, I don't think you're gonna change your approach on offense to not target Justin Jefferson, right? Like, he's still gonna be a focal point on that offense. You have to throw the ball to somebody. And I don't think that changes his value. I think he still gets a lot of targets. I don't think he'll get, the luxury of having great passes at times, but I do think the targets will be there. And he's such a stud wide receiver. I think he'll capitalize. If he can make 1,000 yards last year and miss like half the season, I think that his fantasy production will still be.
But he also made all those points when he had Kirk throwing to him.
I mean, the only thing that could
Sure.
also kind of balance out this. I mean, it might be harder for the Vikings in general. I don't know. Nobody knows the status of Jordan Addison. Today he did get carted off the field from practice,
Yeah.
so that could,
He's got
you
some
know,
legal stuff going on too, right?
I don't know, but that could affect Justin Jefferson's production, and maybe he gets double teamed, maybe he gets more targets. I don't know. So I think it's tough. I think his production's tough with Sam Darnold. So I agree with you there. But at some point he's still going to produce, yeah, right? He's Justin Jefferson, so
Yeah.
you
And I
got to
think for
find
me,
that fine line.
yeah, it was more of a respect factor, Chris. Like, I'm aware that, the scenario that he's in has changed completely, but I just think immensely of him that I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and have him in my top 5, even though you could potentially have him slide out and be lower than that. I would understand that too. And, I'm banking on it that he's still that guy. And no matter who's throwing him the ball, that he'll still produce. It won't be typical Justin Jefferson numbers that we're accustomed to seeing, but I just think that since he's such a focal point of that offense, they have to continue to target him. Yeah, following up to that, I have AJ Brown, Amon St. Brown, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's one that I think that with A-Rod being back, if he's in resemblance of what he was in the
Yeah,
past,
he could have a crazy breakout.
yeah, he could even be higher, man, because
Yep.
I think he still had 1,000 yards last year. And with
I actually have him at 7 as well, but yeah, he could have it like with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
My God.
yeah, so his potential is out of the roof. I think Puka had a solid year last year, and I think he'll continue to progress off of that. I was torn, though, I'll be honest, between Puka and Cooper Kupp, because I think that they're both going to be productive. I just don't know who's going to do what.
Yeah, I want to dive deep on this topic. I might wait to show you my list before I dive deep on that topic, because it's going to be probably what I mainly go over on mine. But
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
I feel the same way as you, but I'll let you keep going for right now.
Yeah, and similarly to, I have Devontae Adams at number 9. Again, there's always question marks with the Raiders QB, but I'm putting respect on the actual individual, and he still produces when he has terrible quarterbacks. So I don't see a huge fall off there. Chris Olave was one I struggled with, man, because I think he has a lot of talent, but I'm just like, man, the quarterback position, dude, has not been the best. But to give him credit, the Raiders had Derek Carr, and Devontae Adams had a phenomenal year. So I'm banking that, yeah, he'll hone in. Chris Olave will be his number 1 receiver, and he'll still put up numbers. Mike Evans is Mr. Consistency, so I think that he just continues that with Baker Mayfield.
He manages to always put up numbers somehow.
Always, man, always.
Just somehow, some way.
Always. For the longest, I used to tell myself, there's no way this guy's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, I think he's good, but not great.
He needs to be in the Hall of Fame. Bro.
But you can't deny consistency, man.
You cannot deny him.
You cannot deny that.
He is unbelievable.
Yeah. And then to round out the bottom 4 of my list, since you guys can't really see it, at 12, I have DK Metcalf. At 13, I have Drake London, for the simple fact that I think Kirk Cousins will elevate his production.
Absolutely.
And he is a number 1 wideout. So I think that he will get fed off that. Jalen Waddle I have at 14. So the same Puka and Cooper dilemma I have is the same thing with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Not a simple fact of are they going to be productive? I think all 4 will be, but it's just a matter of they can pop at any moment and you just don't know. So it's like, I'm going to continue to put respect on his name too, because he still had 1,000 yards despite Tyreek Hill having a career year. And then I had my list ending with Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that I don't know too many of the receivers on Arizona Cardinals, and I know him. So Kyler Murray will be throwing him the ball a lot. And I think because of that, he will end up 15 on mine. I did have a couple of honorable mentions I wanted to mention to you guys that I don't have on there. One of them was Nico Collins.
Yeah, I don't know how he didn't make your 15, bro.
Yeah, dude. With and he's
probably I know that they have a lot of guys in their
because they added Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, I understand, but he is.
That's
what's that? What'd you say, Chris?
No, go ahead, MGB. Yeah, like I'm saying, is that why you didn't have him on your list?
That's exactly why.
I get that, but bro, like that tandem is unbelievable. Like they're gonna have yes. Well, that take away some of his targets? Maybe, yeah, but dude, when you got a connection like that, you got a connection like that. Like that's like he's got his guy. You know, Tank Dell is fantastic. They got a connection too. I'm sure Stephon Diggs and him are meshing, but like, dude, Nico Collins is on the rise. He didn't even hit full potential. I just can't see him taking a step back after the production he had last year, and it was just like he was just coming out of the woodwork.
See, and to an extent, I agree. I'm indifferent on that. I think you have studs all over you. They're gonna spread the ball more, and he'll have less targets. So,
well, I will say this, and I didn't pull up my list yet, but a guy who I wanted to make my 15, and it's a receiver that you're gonna say what, because we bashed him so many times and just thought that he wasn't the guy. But I was looking at his numbers, and he's only gotten better. And he had his best year of his career last year with the Chicago Bears. DJ Moore is a good fantasy football player.
no, he is actually.
I don't know about that because
I can't deny that.
No,
I don't
didn't put-
I don't have hate on DJ Moore, but I mean it's the same thing with Roma Dunze, Keenan Allen. Like that's just so loaded.
well, that's why I didn't put him in my top 15. So I know I was saying I know I'm being a little bit of a hypocrite putting Nico in my top 15 and not DJ. But the thing is that I went off of knowing that connection that CJ Stroud had with Nico Collins. I don't think that goes away, which will continue to help make him his number one receiver. And then you have, DJ Moore, who had all that production, and you have a better quarterback there, but there's no already established connection between him and Caleb Williams, so we don't know who his number one target is going to be. So that scared me a little bit about committing to DJ Moore more so than it did committing to Nico. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that
I
makes
agree with that.
sense.
I mean, the Bears they have a lot of weapons, but you don't know how they're going to look yet. So it's going to be
Right,
hard
I
to
don't
pick.
know-
Oh,
you don't
this is the
know
guy I
who's-
want. I don't know
Who his
who
favorite target is. It could be Roma Dunze.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it could literally be Roma Dunze is his favorite target, and then DJ Moore's production goes down a little bit, right? Like he has been the guy,
Yeah.
but now last year they didn't have those other two guys, whereas I think that relationship has already been established, and a lot of the success that the Texans had last year was because of that relationship between CJ Stroud and Nico Collins. So I don't see why you go away from that, because why go away from something that made you so successful?
No.
Yeah.
True.
I agree. Let me. I'm gonna. Oh, you have more. You have another guy.
No. The only honorable mention that I had was aside from Nico Collins was Cooper Kupp, which I mentioned earlier. But
Absolutely.
otherwise, yeah, that's my list. So you can go ahead, Chris.
Yeah.
We'll jump into Cooper Kupp on probably his and mine. So this is gonna be good. We all like Cooper.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much we start off very similar. I think one of my main differences from you is that I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown ahead of Justin Jefferson. That's simply because of the quarterback situation in Minnesota with Sam Darnold. They're both incredible players. I don't think anybody can argue that. And I think Jamar Chase jumped the gun over CeeDee Lamb. I think that you can't go wrong with either one, but I'm just thinking the connection with Joe Burrow coming back, that he's going to be right up there with production again. So those are a few changes from what you had. The one question for me that I know that you guys aren't going to like, I have Deebo Samuel higher. And the reason why I've got him higher right here is because if you see at the bottom, my honorable mentions Brandon Ayuk. Like, we don't know where he's going to be by the start of the season. I hear this talk he might be on the Steelers. They might end up keeping him and coming to a long-term deal. Like, we don't know. But if he's traded, I think that opens up a huge gap for Deebo Samuel to come in and take a lot of fantasy points. And they were using him at running back a lot last year. And in the backfield, he might get a lot more targets outside in a PPR league. So I think that he has a huge ceiling for a lot of fantasy points.
I have a question for
and-
you, Chris.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what if he ends up staying? What if Brandon Ayuk ends up staying on the 49ers?
Then
Where
I
would
think
you rank
Deebo drops down a bit.
Okay,
I think
what
it's
would
like
you
the
have him
split
ranked?
production. After 10, teetering on the edge of probably around the mid to lower portion of 15, I would say.
Okay.
Um,
I agree with that. He's my number
I think
15.
that, yeah, and then I think the biggest struggle, honestly, on this list that I had, my hardest pick was Puka. So like I was doing, and it wasn't just because of Puka. He's an incredible receiver, but it's because of Cooper Kupp. So I was doing a lot of comparison between him and Cooper Kupp. You know, Puka's making a name for himself to become the number one wide receiver in on the Rams, and I think that's going to happen. But Cooper Kupp's was banged up last year. First 4 weeks, he had a hamstring injury, and that hamstring injury just lingered throughout the year. And then he missed another game later on in the year. He did play here and there, but you know when you have a hamstring injury, it's not the same. You're banged up. You're on and off the field. Like your production significantly
MJP knows about
drops.
hamstring injuries.
Yeah, so your production significantly drops. So, I think that I struggle, to be honest, with putting Puka up this high for the sole fact that I think they're going to have a lot more split in fantasy points this year because Cooper Kupp is going to be healthy. And we also don't know, like you said, with Caleb Williams and the Bears, like we don't know is Matthew Stafford's true number one Puka, or is he going to go back to Cooper Kupp that's being really healthy? Right. It's such a hard pick for me. So they're both amazing players, but it's tough. And then, I don't know if you guys have anything up more to touch on that, but Mike Evans, like we said, he's just manages to somehow get it done. He's a dog. He just gets it done. So I got him at 10. And then another 2 picks that I'd like to mention on my list is Drake London. I think he does get that extra umph with Kirk Cousins being his quarterback. Atlanta's making moves, man. They just got Matthew Judon. They're making that trade for him. They're making moves.
Yeah, that's big. That's big.
And I think it's going to be great for Kyle Pitts, and that might help Drake London not get double teamed as much because they're going to have to spread the field on defense, and he might get a lot more targets. Yeah. And then, we already mentioned Nico Collins. I threw him in here at 13 just because I think that connection with CJ Stroud is so strong that he's going to continue to produce. You do have to take the risk on splitting those fantasy points out with Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, and so forth, but I still think he's going to be productive. And, last but not least for my top 15 that I haven't mentioned is DK Metcalf. I think that I have him year in year on my team, and he has a few bad weeks here and there, but he manages to put up points. So, he's always helped me out. I couldn't stop at 15, so I got Jalen Waddle and Marvin Harrison Jr. as well.
What is this?
No self-control.
Yeah, I couldn't stop. So
what is this?
That is hysterical.
Not only does he have 17, but he also has an honorable mention.
Yeah, I know.
So I have 18.
Oh my god, that's great. Well, I'm going to respond to a couple of what your final guys with mine. I want to talk about my strategy first before I just go into it. So I'll throw mine up. Actually, I won't because I'm gonna explain my strategy first. Because I know that you're going to be so shocked by some of the decisions that you're not even going to hear what's coming out of my mouth. So, basically, the way I looked at this, well, you listen, hey, multiple fantasy football champion, multiple season champion here, okay? So, yeah, all right. So, you have to understand.
Carry on.
Yeah, sure. Carry on. Yeah. Some people get the truth hurts. So, what you need to understand here is when I'm making this list, right? I can't justify in my head putting 2 players of the same team in the top 12 because now they're going to compete. They're going to compete with targets. So like MJB, you had Jalen Waddle in there. I think that there's an argument that can be said that he can be in there. But when making my list, I had to pick who I think is going to be the top target for each one of these players. So when I'm drafting in the top 12, if I'm in a 12-man league, I know that at least one of the receivers that I'm going to take, right, needs to be a prime target that's not the second, potentially the second option on a team. That's the way I look at this. Then that way my wide receiver 2, he can be the second option on the team. But so if Jalen Waddle is my number 1, I don't know if I'm going to feel good about that if he's my wide receiver 1 because I know that he's already going to be losing a considerable amount of targets. And we know that he had a lot of up and down games. When he was on, but he also had some off games. And if you're lying that as your wide receiver one, dude, there's gonna be some weeks where you're hurting, like you're hurting because he just didn't get the production, and it could have just been because of targets, not him. So that I want to throw in there. So with my list, all right, Tyreek Hill, he is number one. I think CeeDee Lamb is a close second, dude. I think his fantasy production is going to be off the charts this year, and honestly, you can make an argument that he's going to be number one just because Dolphins have Jalen Waddle, right? Like, so there is like no one's competing for targets with CD in my eyes. So you can make the argument that he's going to be the top dog, but I still think Tariq is the reigning champ. Jamar Chase, for what Christopher said with Burrow coming back, the connection, the whole nine. This is where things got interesting. I moved Puka up to number 4. I think that the Rams are going to have such a high-powered offense with the gunslinger of Matthew Stafford that I think that there's going to be so many targets, and people can't. You're going to have to load the box when you have Kyron Williams and Blake Corum running the football. And then whether it's at a play action, whatever it might be, I think Puka's going to get those targets. Now, I'll remove the ticker there so people can see my honorary mention, guys, which we can bring up the Cooper Kupp conversation now before I keep going. So Cooper Kupp, I'm just concerned about his health. I think that Cooper Kupp, honestly, is Stafford's number one guy. When Kupp was healthy, dude,
I agree.
he was
I think he's
unstoppable. The Stafford Kupp connection might be the best wide receiver quarterback connection in the league. I mean, it was unbelievable. Problem is that, and if you're a young wide receiver and you want to, mirror your game around someone, technique wise, I don't think there's anyone better than Cooper Kupp in the league. His route running is.
But I mean, right now he's healthy. So with a healthy Cooper Kupp, are you still happy with Puka at 4?
I am, because I'm looking at longevity of the entire season. So, like, if I'm taking Cooper, again, listen. So now I say I'm drafting. If it's for my wide receiver 2 and Puka's not my number 1, I will take Cooper Kupp at my wide receiver 2 as my honorable mention, and I'm fine with that. But I don't know if I want to make him my wide receiver 1 just because I think that Puka's going to really go off this year. Remember, he was a rookie last year. Imagine what he's going to be able to do now. And teams were able to double him when Kupp went down and his production was still there. Now Kupp's on the field, dude, his production is going to go up again. So I think that Puka's going to be a force. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to help carry that Lions offense. Garrett Wilson, he's at 6 just because it's all based on potential. I think he should be number 3 or 4.
Easily. I
think that he is, you can make an argument that he is right behind Tyreek and CeeDee this year. I'm just a little nervous. If I can pick an Amon-Ra St. Brown where it's more of a sure thing, am I going to gamble with Garrett Wilson when, God forbid, Rodgers gets hurt or something like that? We just don't know. But based off of...
No, what's crazy is he's so good, and we just don't even know how good yet.
I know.
That's the part that's
I'm dying to see it. I am dying to see it. So listen,
good.
if you want to gamble in, right, like say your number 1, 2, and 3 are Tyreek, CeeDee, and Jamar, and they're all gone, and you're sitting there and you're like, screw it. And you take Garrett Wilson as the 4th best wide receiver off the board. Good for you. Like, I think that, like, if you can bring it, and hey, listen, that might be me. I don't know, but like, he is gonna have that type of year. AJ Brown, he fell a little bit lower than you guys for me. I've had him the last 2 seasons. I think that he is a very good receiver in this league, one of the best. Fantasy production wise, he's either great or doesn't show up. And there was too many games at the end of the year last year where he didn't show up. That is literally why I couldn't compete in our final. Like, and I barely got through the semifinal because there's so many times where, like, he's healthy, he just whether it was targets or what.
Yeah, I think it's the same problem as, like you said, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Puka, Cooper Kupp, Nico Collins, and everyone else. They're splitting so many points, and now you have Saquon Barkley. That's, who knows? Is he going to get a heavy load running the ball a lot more, like taking some less passing snaps from the offensive scheme? I don't know, but they have a lot of points to share around, and That's gonna be tough. I think AJ Brown's incredible, but it's gonna be tough fantasy points wise.
Yeah. No. Listen, and number 8 at Mike Evans. I think this might be one of the safest picks in the draft. I think you're getting fantasy production week to week. Is he going to give you 20-point games every week like a CD or a Tyreek might? Maybe not, but you're sitting at 15 points, a week, and then he's going to have some bigger weeks than that. I think that if you are that guy that wants to take the running back in the first round and then on that snake comes back around and Mike Evans is the top receiver left, you grab him. I think that's an option there. Justin Jefferson, man, he'd be the number 3 if they had a quarterback. Dude, we've seen Sam Darnold play for 3 separate teams. Why are we thinking that the 4th team is going to be any different? He's never provided what is needed.
Definitely the best team he'll ever be on. So we'll see.
No, that's not true. The best team he ever played on was the San Francisco 49ers. And that couldn't get done until Brock Purdy took over. So I just don't think that the production is going to be there where it was. So Mike, like the Justin Jefferson pick at 4, I understand you got to respect him. I think he is going to get force fed. I'll give you that he stays top 10. And that's the same reason why Devontae Adams is at 10, right? Because of those reasons. But I don't know if I can have him move up much further than that just because of the fact that who's throwing to him. And then lastly, we talked about Nico Drake London. I think that I think that what you said earlier, MJB, the fact that Kirk is throwing to him, he's going to elevate his performance and his fantasy production. That's why he rounds out my top 12. And then honestly, Olave, great receiver, hoping that Carr can get the job done with him. I think Marvin Harrison is going to be productive. I just don't know how early on in the season we're going to see it. So I think that if you're drafting him, I certainly hope he's not going to be your number 1 receiver, because if he is, it could be a couple weeks before we see that production. We don't know what that's
problem with Marvin Harrison is not him. It's the offensive line. It's the Kyler Murray coming back from injury.
I have that
Correct.
too.
I completely agree. And that's why I make the comments. I don't think it has anything to do with Marvin. I think he's more than capable.
So let me ask you a question, Mike, real quick before you finish.
Yeah.
Let's say you're in the round 2 of our draft and you have Drake London, Chris Olave, DJ Moore, and Jalen Waddle on the board. Who you're taking?
Drake London.
Interesting.
I think that's an easy pick.
Because you're debating between Jalen Waddle and Drake London, right?
Any of the 4.
Who are the other 2 guys?
I'm taking Drake London because of this. The quarterback. He's going to get the targets, and they have a great offensive line. They have an unbelievable running back where teams are going to be finding ways to stop Bijan. This is going to be if Drake London doesn't produce in fantasy football this year, don't ever select him again. Like this is one of those moments where it's like you have all the tools. Just go out there and do your job and why they're paying you, and you're going to produce. So for me, I think that it's because every single scenario you can concoct, it's there to elevate his play. They got an unbelievable tight end. They got all these other avenues to help him improve. I just don't see how he doesn't put up good numbers.
And then with the other 2 guys, DJ Moore and Jalen Waddle, you feel the same way if you were in round 2 and those 2 guys were on the board as well as Chris Olave, you would take Chris Olave?
Yes. Because between Chris Olave, DJ Moore, and Jalen Waddle. The reason why I'm taking Chris Olave is simply because he's the number 1.
Definitely not DJ Moore. I don't think it's between him and Waddle. That's the only one I could.
Man, your disrespect for DJ Moore is crazy.
Yeah. It's not.
Right?
It's not
why?
DJ Moore. It's because they also have Rome Odunze and Keenan Allen. I feel like Jalen Waddle, you're mainly splitting just with Tariq. Like now you got
who's the best receiver in the league.
Of course,
he's competing with so DJ Moore,
DJ Moore over Jalen Waddle.
No, I'm just countering you. So you're making it seem like it's a very easy decision. I'm just saying I got to sit there and think about it because DJ Moore is competing with a rookie wide receiver in Rome Odunze and a a receiver in yes, he's a veteran, but Keenan Allen has been so injury prone his entire year. We're lucky, and he's up there in age. We're lucky if he even plays the whole season. Yeah, I know he's healthy now, but let's see what happens. So it's like, God forbid he goes down. Rome Odunze is a rookie. DJ Moore is going to get target. Like, oh, you're a rookie quarterback. Oh, I'm rushing, around back and forth trying to make a play. You're going to go to old reliable and DJ, who's going to be there to move the sticks. You know what I mean? So I think that it's not as simple. I don't know. So MJB, this is a great conversation. Who are you taking? You taking DJ? You taking Jalen?
I don't know.
Or Olave. Because you need to be able to justify to yourself that you can go to a number 2 receiver, because we're assuming that DJ may not be the number 1. I'm not going to say he's the number 3, but
yeah,
I think he's going to be the number 1 or 2. Are you going to take a number 2 receiver on a team?
Believe it or not,
over the number 1.
Out of the 4 I mentioned to you, I would lean more towards Chris Olave. I don't know if I've seen enough from Drake London to, yeah, he should be getting the targets, but I don't know. I didn't see enough for me to be like, man, he's a stud number 1 wideout. I don't know that, like just off talent alone.
But every single team that Kirk Cousins has played for, he has developed the wide receiver. He's never played on a team, and whether it was the Redskins, the Commanders, the Vikings, he's always elevated the wide receivers that he plays for. He is a stud, dude.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I don't know. For me, I just haven't seen, and maybe this will be the season that I get to see it. I just haven't seen enough from Drake. Me personally, I just haven't seen enough. There's nothing.
I agree with that.
I just haven't seen enough from Drake to be like, yeah, he's the guy. I honestly think their number 1 option in the pass game on offense is
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. So
I don't disagree with that. But
for me,
it's so hard. I mean, I'm huge on Kyle Pitts coming out of college. I've had him every year, I think, in fantasy. And every year it's been so disappointing.
But that was a mistake. I mean,
he never had a quarterback. But that's the thing. So you took Kyle Pitts with the potential, but there wasn't production because there wasn't a quarterback. So now when we're having this conversation, right, are you going to take, say, Chris Olave over Drake London when we don't know what that quarterback production is going to be like over there in New Orleans, where do you go on more potential based off of the quarterback? But it's a very difficult decision to make.
It is.
And everyone, every single draft is going to have someone having to make this decision.
I just want to point out, the Fantasy Pros website has a online generator who they recommend between players, and Chris Olave versus Drake London. They have 100% Chris Olave, which I think is wild. I lean more towards Drake London, but that is pretty interesting.
It's probably based off of the known production, and I don't exactly. And listen, you can't. So you can't. I can't argue with you if you told me you're going to go Olave. Like, I can't say no. I can't say, oh, yeah, dude, you should have went with London. Like, I can't say that until we know, right? And the other thing too is, and I know you're not supposed to make this stereotype, but we talk about it all the time. I know MJB and I do when we do our draft prep. We don't see the transition in production from USC to the NFL with wide receivers.
Yeah,
it's just you don't. A lot of the wide receivers that come, like, listen, Jordan Addison. Let's see, right? He had a good rookie campaign. Let's see if he can keep it going too. Drake London, we'll see. But, it's a good question. Listen, and based off of feel, dude, I might do something totally different when it comes to draft time, depending on who my previous pick was. It might be close to the third round, and one of these guys are still sitting up there. Because are people starting to draft quarterbacks in the third round? Is it running back heavy in the first 2 rounds, which many times it is? So, like, you're sitting there, or you just don't know. Someone might draft one of these guys earlier, but it's a really good question.
No, it is. And the reason I bring it up is because I think, especially this year, whoever you select for your second and third wide receiver is going to have a huge impact on, how you perform that year. Because out of the 4 I just mentioned, you could take hell, you could take DJ Moore, right? And what if he ends up having a monster year out of the other two? And you're like, damn, I really didn't think that was going to happen. And boom, he gives you type 1 numbers, and you already have a Garrett Wilson on your roster. Now you're knocking that out of the park.
I think that DJ Moore is a very safe pick in the later rounds. Like,
I'm just throwing out an example.
100%. Like, if I'm gonna draft him, like, I'm not taking. Like, and honestly, if this is the second round and everything goes heavy on wide receiver, and I'm sitting there, or the third round, like, and I have to make that decision, I'm gonna be honest with you, I probably won't. I'm probably going to see what they have at running back or quarterback, and I might do that because I know I can get another steady state wide receiver, maybe a DJ Moore later on. And I do want to mention the honorable mention guys I have. So we talked about Cooper Kupp. If I take Garrett Wilson in the first round, and I'm the 6th pick in the draft, so I'm taking Garrett Wilson, or the 8th pick, and I take Garrett Wilson, then we come back around, and now I'm looking at, Drake London. When it comes back to me on the snake, I don't have a running back, and I can get another, a blue chip running back on, maybe tier 2. I'm taking that running back. So like, it's going to be interesting how that plays out. But and then I'm going to sacrifice getting that wide receiver because I know that maybe I take Cooper Kupp in the 3rd round as my wide receiver too, and I'd be okay with that based off of where I'm taking him. The other thing is, Zay Flowers and Malik Neighbors. We got to bring these guys up. They're not top 15, okay? But Zay Flowers is still the number 1 in receiver in Baltimore. He's going to get targets. This guy can be a very good wide receiver too for your football team. I'm very high on him. He didn't make maybe my top 15. I'm okay with taking a Zay Flowers as my wide receiver too if I prioritize other positions when I'm up and I'm drafting. Like I said, if I go running back, if I go quarterback, and I know that there's different schools of thought, and we'll talk about that in the quarterback show, but like I'm okay with taking a quarterback earlier, and guess what? It's won me championships. MJB, it's brought you to championships. Like I've seen you take quarterbacks early, so people poo-poo that. Like I don't agree with that. There's not many in the top tier of those guys, so that's going to push some of these other guys down. And then Malik Neighbors, I'm high on him. People think that's crazy. I also don't think that DJ is going to play as bad as people think. You got websites ranking him as like the 35th best quarterback in the league. You're going to tell me that there's 3 backup quarterbacks in the NFL that's better than Daniel Jones? Get the hell out of here. So it is. It's terrible. But you're seeing it all over. And to me, I just look at that and I'm saying, well, this guy, I don't care about his opinion because that's absolutely absurd.
Listen, if the Giants O-line actually figures it out, then I think Malik Neighbors can go off. I agree.
Yeah, I'm saying take him wide receiver 1. No, but if you can nab him as a flex, that could be a big,
he's a major hit or miss. That's it.
It is, and that's one that you want to take a flyer if he's sitting there, and you know that you've covered some things in your on your roster already. If you're sitting there and you're taking him as a homer Giants fan to be your wide receiver 2 as your starting flex, you might pay for that later.
Yeah.
That's a big gamble, but it's someone that you should definitely keep your eyes on. I think that he's going to be one of the rookies, and I know you guys know that I tend to draft rookies a lot in fantasy, so he's one of the guys that I have my eyes on, and that's not as a homer type of pick or decision.
Yeah. No, overall, your list is great. I tell you, the only one that I just have a hard time, like if I was there in the second round, I'm just not a huge fan of the individual. His system should warrant better numbers and targets.
You're talking about Drake London?
Yeah. I don't see it.
No, I understand. I do. And, this is based off of, like you said, the system. Now, I'm telling you right now, this is the list that I have, and I feel very good about it. Because I don't feel like if I take Chris Olave over Drake London, like I don't feel any better. And then if I take Drake London over Chris Olave, I don't feel any better. So I think it's a very evenly matched debate on who should, go there. But again, when I'm drafting, I'm going to be prioritizing not just the wide receiver position, and I'm going to look there and I'm going to say, am I going to be the one to make this decision? But if there's another player that's the top dog at running back or quarterback, that can fill that need, I'm probably going to go there. There's a lot more wide receivers in
Mhm.
this league than there are in other positions. So as fun and as impactful as wide receivers are, and they're going to help you win games, that may be a decision I'm going to try to avoid making.
And like I said, every year when we do the draft, Chris ends up picking a guy that I'm just like, okay, I was not expecting that. So now that I have insight into his theory on his rankings, I'll be one step ahead of you, Chris.
That's
He's
fine.
prepared. He's prepared.
These rankings have been not accurate, just so I can mess you up on draft day.
I told MJB I would have done the same, but I was staying truthful to our listeners.
Exactly.
I have to just have one request of you, MJB. Don't be drafting Aaron Rodgers first round.
No.
Don't be pulling any of that shit again. I'll never forget. I was where I was still living in Miami when that happened. I was like, what is this?
Dude, he's a bad man, so
Oh, God.
I
Yeah,
just
but
have
we
to
Wait
don't-
for that conversation when we do quarterbacks.
yeah.
I can't wait to see how high he is on your board.
Yeah, that's going to be a really, really good show. And with that being said, that's going to conclude today's show on the Docs Huddle's fantasy football rankings on wide receivers. Coming up in future shows, we're going to be just discussing the quarterback position, the tight end position, so that way everyone has a nice, well-rounded understanding of how to pick some of the top positions in each portion of their draft board coming up with your personal fantasy football draft. And then following those episodes, we're going to be conducting our own personal draft. And this will not be a mock draft. This will be our real fantasy football draft live. So you guys can see some of the strategies that we're taking, especially in earlier rounds, some of which I alluded to this evening. So with that being said, for Dr. MJB, the legend, for Chris, a.k.a. Doug, the sports enthusiast, I'm Dr. MJB. Until next time, take care.